Israeli hostages release and ceasefire deal confirmed. Breaking news: Israel. The Prime Minister of Qatar officially announces a hostage deal and a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip. The initial ceasefire is temporary, first phase of 43 days, and will transition into a permanent ceasefire when all the requirements are met. The ceasefire will begin on Sunday. In the first phase, 33 hostages will be released. The first hostages are expected to be released on the first day, and then about 3 to 4 hostages each week for 6 weeks. In the last week, the remaining hostages of the 33 agreed upon are expected to be released. An official in the Israeli Prime Minister's office, the Prime Minister will address the public only after the deal is complete and closed. Ceasefire Bibis turns to the Saturday. There is no information on whether he, his brother, or their mom are still alive. If the deal goes through, we will know within a week or so if they are alive. Sad news. U.S. State Department spokesman Matthew Miller reports that out of the 7 American hostages in Gaza, only 3 are believed to be alive, while the remaining 4 are confirmed dead. Incoming National Security Advisor Waltz on Fox News Now: "I want all Israelis to hear me out. If Hamas breaches this deal, we will back Israel 100% to go back to the war. In the end, Hamas will no longer be in Gaza."
Same time, though, we do want to break in some breaking news that we're getting now out of the Middle East, as we know that Hamas and Israel have reached a ceasefire deal. I'm going to put up some video here because we have been monitoring this situation for so many months now. Now, Israel and Hamas agreeing to a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of dozens of hostages after more than 15 months of war. Any deal is expected to pause the fighting and bring hopes for winding down the most deadly and destructive war Israel and Hamas have ever fought, a conflict that has destabilized the Middle East and sparked worldwide protests. Again, this is just some video that we have collected over the last 15 months here, and this is big on the front when we're talking about the Middle East and the conflicts. We have been waiting for a deal like this to come to fruition after so many different attempts between both sides to finally get an agreement on the table. Just continuing to read more from the Associated Press here, as Israel did announce late Wednesday that Hamas has tried to change agreed upon understandings for security arrangements along Gaza's border with Egypt. Now, it strongly rejected those proposals. This deal did come after last-minute snag in those negotiations. And I do have a live picture here as well that we have been monitoring. This is over in Gaza, just one of the many images that we have been bringing for quite some time now. But really, the biggest news here, this breaking situation, Qatari and Hamas officials say a ceasefire has been reached to pause Israel's war in Gaza and release dozens of hostages. Now, we'll wait to see really how all of this plays out within the next several weeks, really within the next several hours, as this is a developing story. So here is what we know so far. When does this deal take effect? Now, the plan still needs approval from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's security cabinet and then his full cabinet. Both are dominated by Netanyahu allies and are likely to approve any proposal he presents. And in regards to what will happen to those hostages, nearly 100 people are still captive inside Gaza, and Israel's military believes at least a third are dead. The 3-phased agreement would begin with the release of 33 women, children, older adults, and wounded civilians in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian women and children imprisoned by Israel. Soldiers and other male captives would be released in the second phase. Now, what does this deal mean for the war? The agreement would bring relief to the hard-hit Gaza Strip, where Israel's offensive has reduced large areas to rubble and displaced around 90% of the population of 2.3 million, many of which are at risk for famine. So we are going to continue to follow the latest developments with this as a deal reached between Israel and Hamas that will see some hostages freed, pause war in Gaza, and 3 U.S. officials also confirming that to the Associated Press. And this comes once again after more than 15 months of war. A live picture there out of Gaza at a hospital that we have continued to bring these images of the past several months. We are working to gather even more details, but this is just the latest breaking news out of the Middle East. We'll be right back.
Here at home, many are reacting to the news of the ceasefire deal between Israel and the terrorist group Hamas. News for Tucson's Connor McGill spoke with members of the local Jewish community about their reaction to all this. He joins us live outside the Tucson Jewish Community Center. Connor, what did you hear from these people?
Sean, those I had the chance to speak with today expressed a mix of relief and optimism. It comes 466 days following the initial attacks. The announcement of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has brought a wave of emotions to the Jewish community in Tucson. Hava Leipzig-Holzauer, the CEO of Jewish Philanthropies of Southern Arizona, shared cautious optimism.
It's a very fragile moment. We're all very emotional about it. As we've seen, these ceasefire and hostage negotiations have broken apart at various moments in time. This seems closer to reality, to happening, than it's been in a long time.
For others, the hope for peace and the safe return of hostages has been at the forefront of their prayers and actions.
In my congregation, we've been saying a prayer for the release of the hostages now since October of 2023, since the first Shabbat, first Friday night after that, and in every service and every gathering.
The ceasefire deal has brought a glimmer of hope to a community that has been longing for resolution.
We've all been hoping and praying and working for this to happen, and we don't want to get too excited because things go wrong. In the Middle East, nobody ever went wrong being pessimistic, but I think this is a moment of really great and powerful hope.
Through it all, many are drawing strength from their faith and unity.
We will continue to be who we are in all of these spaces, including, our connection to the Jewish homeland and our family there, which is half of the world's Jewish population, and many relatives of those here at home, and many who live in our own community. And we will work together to rebuild.
Speaking of the rebuilding efforts, the Jewish Philanthropies of Southern Arizona tells me they plan to send a group of volunteers to the Gaza Strip in the coming months. We did reach out to the Arizona Palestine Solidarity Alliance for comment on today's ceasefire deal. We have yet to hear back. Live outside the JCC, Connor McGill, News 4, Tucson.
In the meantime, let's move from Washington now to the Middle East. Live picture there over Jerusalem, you see there, nighttime. Well, I want to put up this tweet from Barak Ravid there at Axios. He has this reporting that the Gaza hostage and ceasefire deal has officially been signed in Doha. Sources to Ravid there. Fox's Trey Yingst has more from the region.
Israeli airstrikes killed dozens in Gaza just a day after the announcement of a new ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Negotiators in Qatar brokered the three-phase deal that would see a pause in the fighting and the hostages returned home in exchange for more aid and the release of hundreds of Palestinian prisoners. But on Thursday morning, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said a last-minute disagreement is delaying his final approval, and he canceled a planned cabinet vote on the deal.
The Israeli government wants this deal to be finalized, but it cannot be a deal which is correct in some places and not in others.
The sticking point appears to be Israel's demand for a veto over which prisoners would be exchanged for the hostages. Hamas claims that was worked out during the negotiations, and it remains committed to the ceasefire deal.
We are now facing a new phase in our proud Gaza, through which we can confirm to the world that we are a free people who build and do not destroy.
Netanyahu could be stalling for time to sell the deal to his more conservative coalition partners. Some have threatened to leave the government if the agreement isn't amended, putting Netanyahu in a difficult position as he also faces pressure from the families of hostages to get the deal done.